Tonya Hockaday. Hockaday is a very unique name. So I know Hockaday is your married name, correct?
Yes.
So what actually is your maiden name?
My maiden name is Moore.
So what do you know about the Moore family?
Not too much.
Not too much?
Not too much. That was my dad's family. Not too much.
So the Moore side is your dad's side of the family. So what's your mom's side?
She's a Stubbs.
She's a Stubbs. So you got the Moore, the Stubbs, you got the Hockaday.
Yes.
It's quite a connection there. And so, you're on this journey now where you're trying to, I would say, identify your true identity. And so this is a remarkable journey. And so I'm excited about being a part of this journey. And so how about you just kind of take me from the beginning, because I know some things, but I really feel like I know nothing. So just kind of tell me about where did this journey all begin for you?
Well, the journey started for me 16 years ago. My life changed completely in a blink of an eye. When it said change in a blink, I woke up Tonya Militia Moore Hockaday, and by the end of that day, I didn't know who I was.
Wow.
So that's the day that I found out I was adopted. At 33 years old, I found out I was adopted.
So at 33 years old, probably in the prime of your life, at the most vigorous moments of your life, your whole life shifts and it changes, because now you find out that everything that you once knew is no longer what you once knew. And so I guess I kind of hear and feel you say my life changed. So tell me about that. What was that feeling like when you found out that very moment?
I think I was shocked. I mean, you sitting at work and you get a phone call and you have a general conversation, like you and I having a conversation right now. And the person says, I'm so glad you're okay with your adoption.
Hold on, so you at work.
I'm at work.
So you're at work and you're having a general conversation. Was this phone call planned? Was this
No,
like,
it wasn't a plan for it. It was my old babysitter.
Call?
We was just chit-chatting. It was called just chit-chatting, have a conversation. And she just said, I'm glad you're okay with your adoption.
So out the sky, this falls with, I'm happy or I'm glad that you're okay with your adoption. Wow, that's quite a moment to have while I'm at work. So what are some of the thoughts? Can you remember some of the thoughts that went through your head when that statement?
You want me to be real with you?
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, what?
Because you're at work, right? So you're
at
work and the babysitter, your babysitter,
my old babysitter,
she just drops that on you. Have y'all had a conversation prior to this?
We never had a conversation. She never had a conversation. We were just having a conversation. And she comes out and says, I'm glad you're okay with your adoption. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm in my head saying, well, what the hell are you talking about? But I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she was like, oh my God, your mom told me she told you. And I was like, what? And I'm in shock. I'm like, what? So we kind of chit-chatted about it. And then I hung the phone up and I remember calling my coworker / friend, Joyce, and I was like, you ain't gonna believe what I just heard. And she said, what did you just hear? She was like, what are you talking about? I was like, my old babysitter said, I'm glad you're okay with your adoption. And I'm like, what adoption? And, looking back, my girlfriend was saying I was laughing. She said she was kind of shocked at how I reacted. Because I wasn't crying or anything. I was just like, what? And I just kind of got nervous. So I was like, okay, what do I do from there? So I called, she said, well, let's call social services. I'm calling social services, acting like, and I'm like, dang, what? So the lady got on the phone. She said, I said, well, I wanted to see if I was adopted. She said, well, what's your name? And I said, Tonya Militia Moore Hockaday. She said, well, what's your former name? I said, well, Tonya Militia Moore. And she was like, okay. So I'm like, this is about to be a lie. This is okay. She came back and she was like, yeah, you're in the database. Whew. And I was devastated at that point. Wow. I left work. I left work. I walking down Broad Street, this looking like boo-boo. Like, what the hell just happened? My life changed. And I didn't know to be mad. I didn't know to be angry. I didn't know what to do. So I remember calling my friend Rita, and I told her, I called my husband, Tony, and I told him, and I called my other friend, Everett. And I was like, yo, and I'm telling them what's happening, but I'm in my head like, this can't be happening. This cannot be happening. And it dawned on me, I'm like, Dad, I woke up, Tonya Militia Moore Hockaday, and that day, I don't know who I am.
Wow.
So I had to deal with, I had a lot of other stuff going on, personally. I'm like, how am I going to approach my family? How am I going to let my family know that I know?
So you're 30 at this time.
I'm
You have
in
any
my
kids at this time?
I had 2 kids.
So you got 2 kids. I heard you, and you were married at this time. So you got 2 kids. You're married. You're working. Where are you working at this time?
I was working at the hospital at MCV.
Okay. So you're in the middle of work. You get a phone call, and out of the sky, this drops into your lap, and are you traumatized? Because I heard you say, well, maybe I laughed a little. I mean, I can't imagine how that feels.
My friend was saying it's almost like I knew. And I was like, no, I was shocked. I like, who does that? Like, who sit at work to find out that they're adopted? Like, come on now. I'm not trying to be funny. It may happen to white people, but black people, So I was like, why me? And I'm not gonna lie, I had to go through so much emotion. I called my best friend Dania, and we was talking about it. I mean, I think I told a lot of people, my close niche people, I told them, but I still was in shock, because how can you go and tell your family who you thought was your family? Yeah, I know it's not the truth. So then I was devastated, and it took me down. It took me down. So
I heard you say you immediately called social services and asked the question, and the question was what?
I asked them, I said, I just found out that I was adopted. I wanted to see if I was in the database. No, I said, I wanted to see what do I have to do to find out. And she was like, well, let me have your name. So I told her my name. And then at that point, I was like, what happened? And she came out and she was like, yeah, you're in the database.
So this validates this for you, because if it's in the database, then there's some validity. Yeah. So the babysitter who I guess assume you knew this information,
was telling the truth.
It's telling the truth because it's just been validated. How long between this conversation with the, I guess, social service and the babysitter? How long apart was that? Did you make the call that day?
I made it right after I got the phone call.
So you made an immediate call.
Yeah,
wow.
I made an immediate phone call, and I was like, well, just give me both. So disclosure means you find out everything. Non-disclosure, you can only find out certain parts of it.
Well, who makes that decision about disclosure and undisclosure?
I made that decision.
You can make that
decision. I can make that decision of what I wanted to do. So I wanted to find out as much as I could. Did I really want to find out? Yeah. But you got to wait so long. It's not like you can find out the next day. You got to wait. They got to research. And I really wasn't paying attention. All I knew is I was adopted. And I just felt devastated. I felt like and then how can you tell somebody, your family, that you know the truth? I had to go through all of that.
So let me ask you a question. All right. So you find out that you're adopted through your babysitter. Mm-hmm. Now you have validated it through social services, and you've got all this information, and you really can't disclose it because you still really don't know anything. You don't know any more now than you knew when you woke up that morning. All you know is now who you thought you were for 30 plus years. You're really no longer that person. Yeah. Wow, that's quite a bit, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, it is quite a bit. And then I had to. So I go through my motions. I'm sad. I'm up and down and stuff. But the hardest part was, how was I going to tell my family that I knew the truth? So it was in May, and I don't ever miss time for work. Never miss time for work. And this particular day, I had a headache. I could not get rid of this headache. So I didn't go to work. And this is the day I got the phone call from social services that they had my records.
Wow.
So I had to meet the lady down at the state library on Broad Street. And she explained to me. So when I met her, I was so nervous because I didn't know what I was going to find out. And then, she was talking to me and everything. And we met and talking and stuff. And she had a file, this big. I'm like, wow. And she was like, this is your family. This is how you was birthed. What happened? So then she went and explained to me that I was born and I was left in the hospital. My mom walked out. The mom was a drug addict. I had I had 3 other siblings because I'm the 4th child. Okay. And then I have a sister right after me. I had 3 other siblings.
Older than you?
Older than me. I think my oldest sister's like 12 years older than me.
Wow.
And, and she said, I don't even know if your mom's living. She said, what the type of life she lived. So then you got to go through that. I'm like, dang. I read that file 100 times. I'm like, she left me? Like, literally walked out the hospital and left me? And I felt some type of way about that. Because she was using drugs with me. And thank God that I didn't devastate my life. I think the only thing was wrong with me, I had braces on my feet. But other than that, I never would have thought that I was a drug addict baby. That's what it was. Wow. So I had to go through all of that. And I was just like, dang, man, what else? What else? And this whole time, I'm still researching for my biological family.
Okay.
I'm still researching. And, that's a lot of emotion because you got your non-disclosure work right here, paperwork, and you read about 1,000 times. 1,000 times you found out something different, and that's when I found out that my biological mom, she had problems. She, her parents died when she was young, and she got married, and that didn't work out. And the husband said he wasn't my father. She had her own issues and stuff like that. But I still was like, you left me in the hospital. That's something devastating because most of us are born, they're taken from the hospital to their family. Mm-hmm. But I was left. So how could you imagine feeling that you was left in a hospital? Okay, this is where I came when I was adopted. I can't really tell you what age I was adopted at, but this is where I grew up with my mom and dad. And it's funny because I hadn't been on the street for years. And Saturday, I did a 10K with my friends, and we started running down the street, and I was like, this street looks so familiar, Carter Street. And then it dawned on me that this is where my life began as Tonya Moore. I was here for a couple of years when my parents got divorced. And, my dad had some alcohol issues. And this is where my life, I guess, it ended on Carter Street. And the one thing I do remember about this street is running up to that school, and my aunt was waiting for my mom and I. And at that point, I left and never turned back. But at that point in time, I still didn't realize that I was adopted.
Let me ask you this because you at this point, you've got, 2 kids? And instantly I'm thinking, do you remember how you felt when you had your children while they were in the incubator or whatever they were in at that time, and then you transitioning from the hospital to home and how you felt, and now to think that you got left in a hospital, did you ever compare the two?
I don't think.
Like, how dare you, or how could you? Did you have the how dare you?
I was angry.
Okay.
I was angry. I was angry. I was sad. I was lost. I mean, my life turned around quickly in months. And the bad thing about it is, it got so devastating for me that I started losing so much weight. My hair got so thin. But you know what people thought? People thought I was on drugs. They thought I was on crack. They thought not knowing what I was really going through. So I remember the lady calling, from church. It was like, Tonya, we're concerned about you. Some people think, I don't know drugs. And then that's when I started hearing, yeah, she must be on crack because she don't lose so much weight. I got down to 80 pounds.
Wow.
Because of my life change. And so then you got to deal with that. So you imagine you dealing, finding you adopted, finding your story, people think you on drugs. I was lost.
So we had this dramatic change in information where you find out you're not who you thought you had been for 30 plus years. now you're trying to transition from where you were to where you need to be, but in the middle of that, you've gone through some weight loss. You know, the symptoms behind this heavy load that you've got. Did that cause stress or?
Yeah, when I say rock bottom, I probably had hit rock bottom at the point. But no, this is what killed. This is what the whole time I'm going through this, and I'm trying to figure out for my family. Like, okay, how I'm gonna tell them? Then it dawned on me when I was 16. I started thinking. I found out that my biological dad. I remember I was at work again. So, I don't know something about jobs. I was at Lectors, and my dad called. And I don't really talk to my dad. You know, my dad and I wasn't, you know, we was close at one time, but when my parents separated, that was kind of gone. And he called me, and he was like, yeah, I got something to tell you. My dad was an alcoholic.
Okay.
So, you know, at 16, you ain't gonna believe an alcoholic, somebody you don't really see. So he was like, yeah, I want to tell you, you're not my daughter. I don't know if he said not my daughter or my biological daughter. I adopted you. And I'm like,
hold on. So your dad calls you while you're at work. He's an estranged dad at this point because you really hadn't had many interactions.
Because my grandparents raised me.
Okay. So he calls you again. He calls you out the blue at work. You perceived him as being drunk. And he says, what?
He says, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said either I'm not your biological dad or I'm not your dad. I can't remember exactly, but I do remember to that point. I was like, oh, okay. But at that time, 16, I didn't really deal with adoption. And I remember telling my boyfriend at the time, I was like, told him what my dad had said. And he was like, it's true. And I was like, well, how would you know?
So hold on, your teenage boyfriend at this point, so he's validating to you what
he said he was told that. So I'm like, but at that point in time, I didn't really think much of it.
Well, you're 16, right?
Yeah. So I went home, told my aunt and my mom what was said. All I remember is my mom running in the room and my aunt calling my dad, laying my dad out. Subject never was brought back up. Never brought the subject up. So then I started thinking in adult age, well, the lie did come out to be the truth. So the lie came out to be the truth.
But it's still the best kept secret in the family because if the boyfriend knows,
everybody knows.
Everybody knows, so it's the best kept secret in the family. So
everybody knows. If to this day, if I talk to somebody, oh yeah, oh we thought you knew, or we was told not to tell you.
Wow.
So at 16, I didn't really think about it.
Whew.
You know, but then I started thinking as an adult, the lie turned out to be the truth.
Wow.
Well, the significance of this park is this is part of my life when I was adopted. I can't remember a lot before then, but I do know is when I got adopted, this is the place that where my adopted dad took me, and I was always scared of those ducks over there. So he took me and my cousins out here, and this was an enjoyment between my adopted dad and me. This is something that we love to do. So when I come out here, I think of him often. About just bringing me out here with my cousins and playing with me, and I will always be scared. I will cry every time I come out to see these ducks. And it's funny now, I love the park. This is one of my favorite parks. So it's funny, back then I would hate the park because I didn't like the ducks. I thought the ducks was going to get me. And now this is one of my favorite spots. I mean, now I got to go through this, this going through my head. Like I'm putting pieces together. And the only reason why I really put the pieces together is because I started, the therapist was telling me I started remembering things. I guess I had blocked so much out. And not constantly blocking it out. So then I started putting pieces together, and then I started saying, and I told my aunt at one time, I said, you remember we went to this funeral and people was just kissing and hugging all over me? And my aunt, which she's not living no more, she said at that point in time, she knew I knew the truth. Because that was my foster parents. But at that time, growing up, when I got adopted, I didn't realize that was my foster parents because I blocked everything out. I thought
But these still aren't your parents. These are foster parents.
These are my foster parents. So I just started piecing stuff together and I was like, you know what? So could you imagine? You find out you're adopted. You got to keep the secret to yourself. Then you find out the lie is the truth. And you still getting rejected. Now I'm thinking that, okay, I'm about to meet my biological family. That didn't work out. So I had to go through all of that because every time I went to meet them, or I thought I was close to meeting them, roadblocks, every single time.
What type of roadblocks are you?
I mean, they wouldn't respond. It's just roadblocks. Nobody would respond.
So you didn't have like the happy, we found you, you found us.
No, I ain't have all that. And it kept getting me down. Like why? Like why do I have to keep going through this? And you know, I was told by Commonwealth Catholic Charity, who did my research, saying they thought they found my mom, but she didn't want to meet me.
Wow.
So then you got to go through the grieving stage again. So I'm going through all of this again, and I'm like, I can only take for so much. And I just finally realized that, okay, everything happens in order steps. And maybe it's just not meant for me to meet them. And I had to, you know, that takes some time. I have my good days, I have my bad days. You know, some days I think about it, some days I don't think about it. But, you know, at the end, I still got to struggle with my identity. I still got to struggle, like, who am I? I still got to struggle with, you know, I get upset sometimes when I see other people with their siblings, and I'm like, well, how would it be, you know, how would it be for me to be with my siblings? But then I did find one sibling, and she was actually looking a year before me. Okay. So she found out a year before I did. So I did find her, and actually, she actually went to school with my first cousin.
Oh, wow.
But we never connected, like we never met each other.
So today, you still have not physically
To this day, I still have not physically met her. And I think it's more, I think it might be me. It might be the both of us. We never talked about it. But it was devastating for me to find out. And to this today, I still haven't found my biological family. I'm not going to look. And then, you know, a couple of years ago, I did the ancestors.com. I was like, okay, I'm hearing stories. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do it too.
Hold on. So you do ancestry.com, and what's your outcome?
Nothing.
Well, I hear that was the thing. And
Nothing.
So nothing.
I respond. I actually emailed a couple of people, no response. So that's what it made me realize, like, okay, if you can't find nothing on ancestors.com, then why keep doing it? You know, and I'm just, this documentary, first of all, will help other people. I don't know why African Americans, we don't talk about adoption that much. I belonged to an adoption group when I first found out, and I was the only, I ain't gonna say I was the only, at the time I was the only African American. And it devastated me because I could hear all their good stories and then hear me, the black one, nothing. And they actually helped me out, but we don't talk about it, you know. And this documentary will help me, for one, for closure, but also help me let people know, even though I went through all of that, I was able to persevere by the grace of God. I could be so devastated. I could have got on drugs. I could have become an alcoholic. I didn't do any of that. Now, did I have my low time? Yes, I had my low times, but
do you have a low moment that maybe you could share with us when you got to your lowest? Did you ever have any thoughts of doing anything that
I got to my lowest
yourself?
When I was going through it? Like, I remember calling the lady at church and saying, look, I think I'm about to drive my car off the cliff.
Wow.
And then when people started saying that they thought I was on drugs, I realized I was at my lowest moment in my life. And what could I do? What could I do? You know, I couldn't keep dwelling on it. And I had to go to a therapist. I went to a life coach. My life coach is the one that actually got me to do the documentary.
Okay.
she said, you don't know, because everybody kept saying, your story is so unique. What's so unique about my story?
Well, let me tell you this. It's unique that your family can keep a secret for that long. Now, it's kind of taboo for black families, or at least it's been my experiences, where black families can keep a secret that long and nobody blurts it out or tells, or you don't get a glimpse of, hey, where I am, because somebody is going to kind of leak it out. But here I'm hearing there are no real leaks up until that one time, which it got pushed down because your aunt went at your dad and your mom denied it. So I think that is taboo itself, Tonya.
And to be honest, Lawrence, I just told my mom a couple of years ago that I knew. And I asked her why, and she said, I never wanted you to know because you're my child. And should I have been angry with her? I could have, but what was that going to do? Was I angry with this process? Yeah, I was angry with everyone. I was angry with my biological family because I'm like, well, how could you not want to meet your flesh and blood? And the bad thing about it is when they found her, from my record, they found my biological mom in the facility, in the prison facility. She didn't want to give me up because I actually was born Tanya Manley, Tanyamanley. That's my birth name. But some people had to make me realize, how can you be mad with her because you don't really know her whole story? And I was like, you're right. So I'm not angry with her. I'm not angry with my adopted family because you did what you had to do at that time. Do I feel like a fool at times? Yeah, I did because everybody knew but me. But at the same time, all I can do is thank God that I'm here today because I could have taken my life. I could have gone off a couple of people. I mean, I've heard stories where people have gone off on people about not telling and everything. But but everybody kept saying your story is just so unique. And I was like, well, what is so unique about my story? Then you got to go through the identity issue. Then you have to go through, who am I? Should I be mad or shouldn't I be mad? What can I do? Can I help in someone else? And that's all I kept hearing about my story. And I spoke up to a couple of people. Do I still get emotional about it? Yeah, I still get very emotional about it. Because I feel like, why did God choose me to go through this? But why didn't he? Why not?
Well, Tonya, just hearing your story, it is a very phenomenal story because there are so many different caveats to this story that could cause someone to go off on the deep end and yell, go off, and just be extremely angry. And I hear you, all of the emotions from the high to the low of what you experienced, but you are a phenomenal person as a result of it. What would you contribute to just being able to make it? So, what would be that one or two things that kind of helped you get through this? I know you mentioned friends and you mentioned family.
I'm going to be honest with you. It was several things. People making my support group, my friends, making me feel special. Making me feel like I was the one, that it didn't matter where I came from, that I mattered. God, people like you made me feel like I was important and that it didn't matter what people said about me, that I still was important. My husband making me feel special, my kids making me feel special, like I said, my friends making me feel special. So that's what made me get through what it is. I have a cousin named Benita, and she made me feel like I was part of a family. Miss Ricks, my life coach, getting after me and making me deal with it because I wasn't dealing with it at first. I was joking like it didn't bother me, but it does bother me, and it makes me feel like when you have a family, cherish your family. You may not be perfect, but cherish them. Because for me, I have a whole family out there that I probably would never ever get to meet. But it made me realize that my friends was my family. I have my friend Rashawn, Veneer, Troy, Tonya, Charmaine, Adrian, Tonya Diggs, Tonya Prentice, Joanna, my god kids, Marshall. Everybody that's in my life makes me feel special. And that's what gets me through this. Even Ethan, when I told him the story, I didn't really think it was going to be that interesting, but him pushing me made me feel like I am special. I may not have been brought up like everybody else, and I may not have came into this earth like everybody else, but I am special, and it taught me this: don't judge people because you never know. I mean, how would you feel if somebody thought you was on crack, and the whole time you're going through something? They put your business out there thinking you're on drugs. You know, my friend Sherry, we've been friends for 30-something years. My friend Aisha, all of us, you know, and I might have left a couple of more people out now. I hope I didn't, but people just made me feel special. And that's what gets me through this. You know, my God, you know, I was serious about taking that, you know, I mean, I wasn't that serious, but was I ever thought about suicide? Yeah, because I was like at that point, who am I? Who am I? I got a couple of people that I call sisters. Like, well, all my friends are my sister, but I got a friend named Tasha, with my big sister. My friend Rita, my sisters. So, like I said, I tried to focus on that and not let it take over. But yeah, does it hurt? It does hurt. But it just makes you feel like you can have your lows and be low, but you just got to come back up high. And then you got to just realize that God put you on this earth for a reason, and that it's okay. I may be different, and that's what I always thought, that I was different. But my friends made me feel like, no, you're not different. You know, I have another friend named Regina. She's like my big sister, and you know, she always tell me that you're so special. So that's the part, because without that, I probably wouldn't have been here. You know, I probably wouldn't have been here. You know, it's plenty of times, I'm not going to lie, that I hated God for this. But then I realized that He did it for a reason. And the only thing I can do at this point is tell my story. Hope I reach one person, and just let people know that you just got to persevere through it. You got to understand that God placed you on this earth for a reason. Everything is through all the steps. And you just have to realize that it's nothing that you really can do about it, but just keep pushing forward. And just realize that people are placed in your life for a reason. And that's what I had to realize. Even though my biological family didn't want us to meet me, that's why I think that's the problem I had an issue with. Because like, once again, I had to go through the grievance process. It's a grievance process. It's basically a grievance. When you grieve something, you grieve it. And I had to go through a grievance process. But I always came back to, it could have been worse. She could have left me in the hospital. I could have been with her. I could have been on drugs. I could have been an alcoholic. But my friends and my family made me special. My friend Everett, he my brother, always make me feel like important, like I'm his sister. So my best friend's family, her family took me in like their family. So even though I'm not blood related to them, but they took me in like their family. So that's my family. So I just, you know, sometimes it can be hard, sometimes it can be good. It's hard for me around holidays because I always wonder, like, well, how would it be with my siblings? But like I said, I had to go through the grievance period. And then when I went through the grievance period, I was angry because I was like, how could you just get rid of me? And then when your flesh and blood comes to meet you, you don't want to meet me? So I had to go through that, but at the same time, I'm human. So I'm going to cry about it. I'm going to laugh about it. But it's nothing that I can do.
Well, there's so many stages that I hear you said you've gone through, you know, even with the loss, the grief. Now, this question I really want to know the answer to. It may take you a second to kind of process it, but, you know, we have some common things. We have some things in common, you know, from this whole perspective. And I want to know, is there a void that sits within in the middle of your mind or your body or something where it's just missing? It's a hole. Do you ever feel a void, a hole, like just no matter who comes in or goes, it just can't be filled? You know it's there. You get past it, but it's you've learned to live with it, but it's still there. Do you have any experience like that? Like not having mom, not having anybody. So there's a whole other side out there that could have been in your life that's not in your life. And thank God you got these phenomenal friends, but is there still that void or that hole there that, you keep protected and you're living and you're thriving through it, but
there is a void, because the void is, what if I did have this family? You know what I'm saying? So I get the void when I see other people with their family or with their siblings. And I'm like, how could it be for me? Because it's 5 girls that I know of. It's 5 of us on her side. How would it be to have that sisterly love? Because I was brought up as the only child. And my cousin and I was brought up as sisters, more sisters than anything. But I still was the only child. So yeah, I do have a void, because I'm like, how could it be? And that's when I get kind of down about it. But then I realize that it's never going to be, and I just have to move on about it.
Okay.
But it is a void there, because I always feel like what it would be to not grow up with as an only child. Like I said, I had a lot of cousins that I grew up with. I had cousin Lisa that we grew up together. My cousin Allison and Munchie, all of us grew up together. But it's still that void, because as I got older and I found out the truth, I'm like, how would my life would have been?
Mm-hmm. Now, the reason I ask you that question, because there are a lot of young men and a lot of young women who are in the adoption systems, who are in foster homes or foster care, and in fact, there are millions across the nation. And so if given the opportunity to help them, transition from where they are to possibly where you are, where you know the void exists, but you have successfully navigated this journey to the point where you're not 100% okay, but you're not at the point where you're cutting your wrists or you're overdosing on alcohol or drugs or anything like that. So what would you say to them to kind of help pull them out? Maybe a young person who's probably in foster care doesn't know if they will ever meet their parents. So any advice that you'd have for any of them?
The advice that I would give them is go through your ups and downs, but kind of write a list of the good versus the bad. Mm. Yeah, you may be in foster care, but you're still living.
That's a plus.
You may have went through the abuse from your from your biological family, but you're still living. Remember that God's placed you on this earth for a reason. For you have an assignment. Family don't always mean by blood. Mm. Your friends can be your family. Like I said, you just got to keep pressing forward. You got to keep pressing forward. Because if you don't, it's going to bring you down, and you're going to always be angry. You're going to always be sad. You're going to always be mad. But if you keep pressing forward, it is a light at the tunnel, and you realize that you are a special one. God created you to be that special one, and He created you to tell your story. And that's what I had to realize. And that's why, because it took me a while to get to this point. It looked like I had so many roadblocks. So for me to be sitting in this chair on November 16, 2020, that's big for me, because I've been trying to work on this project for a while, and I think I was reckless to myself, because I wasn't ready to tell my story. But today I'm ready to tell my story, because with everything going on in this world, I got my health, got my family, got my husband, I got my kids, I got my grandchild, I got my friends. I can't ask for no more. I can't ask for no more at this point.
So we started this process. You went from, I want to say more to Hockaday. You've gotten a few different identity shifts. And so now where you have landed possibly at this particular stage in life where, would you say you kind of have some grasp of who you are now, or developing who you are? Or?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm getting there because I'm still trying to figure out who I am.
Your true identity.
Yeah, because at first I was like, what the heck? I ain't had no baby pictures of myself. I was like, what did I look like as a baby? You know,
how does that make you feel when you see everybody's little bitty baby picture?
I get sad about that because I always wonder, like, where's my baby pictures? And I have one picture of myself. I think I was maybe like 1 or 2. That's the only picture I have of myself. But where I'm at, I'm always growing. You know, I'm gonna say young. I mean, I'm 49, but I'm young. I'm a young black chick that loves to spend time with my family, my friends. I love to support people. I have my running family. I have my exercise family, which that helps me deal with a lot of stuff with working out. So I have my workout family. I have my running family. I have my my entrepreneurship that I'm trying to work on. And like I said, a lot of this stuff did mess me up because I was always feeling like I was always at the bottom. And I was looking at everybody else's life. But looking at everybody's life ain't the best thing because they got just as much messed up in their life than you got in your life.
That's the truth.
So at this point, what can I do? All I can do is tell my story and let people know just persevere. Don't care what nobody say about you. Don't care what nobody think about you because they don't know your story. And right now, you're going to learn my story today. But at that point in time, it taught me that don't judge people because you never know. You know, I like to dress. You know, that's part of my identity. I love to support people. That's part of my identity. I love to be there. I love to love my friends. I love to love my family. That's part of me. And that's all I can ask for at this point. So if I had to speak to somebody in a foster care or somebody that's in my shoes, all you can do is take that moment, live through that moment, learn from that moment, love yourself and love others.
Well, let me say this and
love God.
And love God. That's critical. You said a lot as far as kind of like your true identity. There's so many, I would say, components that you mentioned. You got your running family, your workout family, your friends. There's so many components that now consist of who you are now. So I'm believing, just based on our conversation, that's a part of your makeup now. So for a young girl who may be in a group home, or a young man who may be in a detention center, or just a young person who may just be on the street and they're trying to find somebody to maybe identify with, or trying to find somebody to relate to kind of pull them from where they are to where they need to be. What would be your advice to someone who's in that group home, or someone that's in that detention center, or somebody that's on the street and just don't have a clue who their parents are or what direction to go in?
My advice to them is learn yourself. You have to learn yourself. For me, everything you said I went through. Hey, who am I? All I knew was I was a black chick. You know what people used to tell me all the time? They still do. Well, what do you have in you? Like, what's your makeup? Like, you're not black. You Ethiopian. You something. So when I did Ancestry.com, I did find out I can't remember if it's 100% African American. But that always bothered me because I always said, why can't you ask that question? And once I found out everything that came out, I was like, oh, that's why I get that question. And what I can say to them is that learn yourself. God placed you on this earth for a reason. Learn yourself. All that stuff, that's just makeup. You just got to learn yourself. Your family can't make you. Your friends can't make you. Nobody can make you but yourself and the man above, God. So just learn yourself. Don't take the bad and make it the good. You know what I'm saying? Because at one time I was feeling so sorry for myself that everything I was like, didn't think nothing of myself. I was feeling sorry for myself. I just thought I was ugly. I went through all of that, but then I realized after talking to people and people supporting me, I realized that I was somebody. So the advice that I can give you is nobody can make your identity but you. You're the only person can do it. So you just have to love yourself. If you was brought up in an abusive home, don't let that take your life. I thank God I wasn't brought up in an abusive home. But at the same time, I couldn't take those problems and make it my life. Because then I would have been on drugs. I would have been an alcoholic. I would have been this nothing. But look at me now. I can only do love me and love myself at this point. And I'm not gonna say it's easy. Some days you have your good days. Some days you have your bad days. Go through the emotion. Then pick yourself up and get right back up. And that's what I do at times. I go through the emotion. I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes I'm devastated, and sometimes I'm sad, but I have to talk to myself and say, you know what? You're here for a reason. You're here for a reason. And that's why I kept hearing, you're here for a reason. You're here for a reason. So that's the advice that I can give.
Well, I tell you, I think this is going to be a phenomenal documentary. And I keep using that term phenomenal because I believe that you are a phenomenal person for doing such a brave documentary that you may be able to share with people. And I believe it's going to touch a lot of lives. So, you know, this transition from where you were to where you are now and the journey you've been on it's just been a remarkable journey. And I hear you say relationship with God. I hear you say relationship with friends and how critical relationships are if if you got good, wholesome relationships.
And you know, I really realized that people got friends. I got friends/sisters. I got girlfriends that I call sisters. So those are my sisters. I may never meet my biological sisters. That's fine, because I got sisters. I got one of my sisters named Tamika. Hey sister, how you doing? That's my sister. So I realized that I don't need blood sisters, because I got friends that's my sisters.
And that's deep. You know, I thought about something that Jesus said. He said that, you know, when he was getting ready to die and his mother was there, and he was telling them, the people that do the work of my Father, that's my brothers and my sisters. And so I just thought about that.
Yeah.
And so I thought about your relationship with God, and I connected that. And having wholesome friendships is real critical.
And I'm also too. I have a friend named Cassandra that brought me to this point. She pushed me to doing this documentary, and she's one of my good friends. And that's the friends that you have, sisters that's going to push you to do this. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have never. I was trying to do it, but I wasn't ready to do it. And even when I started talking to Ethan, at that point, I don't think I was ready to do it. And whenever I kept pushing me, I still wasn't ready to do it. But when she talked to me and she said, Tonya, you got to tell your story. Even when I spoke last year at a conference in Petersburg, she said, you told it? She said, but every time I listen to your story, I get something different out of it. I get that you can persevere through anything. I get that you can go through anything. And as long as you got God on your side, you can get through the world. So 5 years ago, I wasn't ready. 3 years ago, I was going. 4 years, 16 years ago, I wasn't ready. But I'm ready to tell my story. I'm no longer ashamed. That's what I can say. Because I was so ashamed of myself, of what people would say about me. Because I was this black child, black girl that was adopted. Because black community don't talk about it.
No, they don't.
You know, and I hope I can take this to another level. I hope I can, you know, I want to start a support group. I want to start a nonprofit. I have a girlfriend there that I'm going to be working with her, and she allowed me. She said, there's plenty of people that you can talk to. So it's going to open doors. I hope by the grace of God, it'll open doors for me. But I didn't tell my story for you to feel sorry for me. I told my story to get something out of it. And the thing is, you just got to love yourself. Don't be ashamed of yourself, because God created a gem.
Well, you're a very resilient woman. I tell you, through this documentary, you've gone through a gamut of emotions. Mm-hmm. And the one thing you just said that really, I think, centers home for a lot of people is the embarrassment of finding out information that you just weren't ready for. And so I
was embarrassed.
I'm happy you brought that part out, because young people deal with a lot of embarrassment, what their friends are going to think, what others are going to think. And so I think that part is real critical. You know, how do you get through the embarrassment part?
That's a hard question.
Because young people deal with that. They deal with that embarrassment piece. Once you found out you're adopted, now you think you're a guy with 3 heads, or you know, you got 3 legs, and so
I guess getting through the embarrassment part is you got to realize that God created you. He didn't create an embarrassment. He created you. And I guess I was embarrassed because I was ashamed of my story because I saw how everybody else was. You know, I got another big sister, Donna James, and she will always tell me, you know, her story of how she was brought up. And she was like, you know, don't be ashamed from where you come from. So I can't be ashamed for where I came from because where I came from, I ain't end up at.
That's true.
You know, I can't be ashamed of the made up identity because this is my identity. You know, so I can't be ashamed of it. You just can't be ashamed. You just don't be embarrassed about it.
So you've embraced.
I've embraced what have come in front of me. I've embraced it. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, I've had my good days and I had my bad days. I'm human, so I'm supposed to go through that. I ain't gonna say it's gonna be all chicky all the time. It's not gonna be that. But I just have to embrace what is in front of me and just take it to the next level.
Great. So if there's anything that you would leave people with being resilient, because I see the resiliency behind what you've gone through. Is there any final thing that you would like to leave or share? Or
Well, one of the things is that lies can hurt you. Keeping secrets can hurt you. And if I was talking to somebody that was getting ready to adopt a person, I think people sometimes, I had to say my mom was protecting me. Should I be mad at her for protecting me? No, I can't be mad at her for protecting me. Could I be mad at the biological mom in her situation? No, I can't be mad at her situation either.
You could, but you just chose not to.
I could, but I just chose not to.
Because there are people who choose to be angry at those
I was angry at one time, but I didn't let it take over because I didn't know. Somebody had to remind me, you don't know her story to be mad at her.
That's powerful, not knowing the person's story, because she could have kept you, and then you could have died in poverty. Or you could have died, you know.
Because I didn't want for nothing. I had the best grandparents ever. I didn't want for nothing. I had the best aunt, the best family. My family was good to me, so I couldn't want for nothing. But all I can say is that you just gotta just embrace it. But if I had to say one advice to somebody that was getting ready to adopt, or you adopt, understand your protection, but tell the child when they're younger. Because I could have accepted, if they would have told me at 16, I told you I forgot about it. I could have accepted it better than when I was in my 30s. Because in my 30s, I was going through too many emotions. So I had too much to deal with.
So for an adoptive mom, your advice would be?
Tell them when they're young. Don't be afraid to tell them. They're not going to love you no less because you are their parents.
Because that's a big thing. It's been my experience in dealing with those type of parents that fear factor is there. They don't want them. Like your mom said, well, you was my child.
Yeah, but it's not
ownership that they instantly take. But
it's not fair to the child. Tell them when they were young. Even if they would have told me when I was 16 and told me the truth, I would have forgot. You could tell I forgot about it. I would have never thought no more about it. But to find out at 30-some years old, I had to go through so much emotion. So my advice is tell them when they're young. Okay, the protection is good, but don't fear, because they're going to still love you because you are their parents. See, I have a mom. But see, I have a birth mom. You just birthed me. But you're not my mother. You know, you're not my mother. You're just my mom. And that's when I had to realize that my adopted mom, you gave me that chance. So thank you.
Because she could have avoided you.
Yeah.
A number of things that could have happened. So when you look at it from that perspective,
and then my birth mom gave me my chance. My adopted mom loved me. That's all I can say.
Say that again. I like that.
My birth mom gave me a chance, and my adopted mom loved me. Wow. And my family loved me. That's all I can ask for.
One loved you, one gave you life. Both gave you life.
Yeah.
They both gave you
Both
life.
gave me life, and that's what it is.
Wow.